Hello, my name is Dan Colgan and I am the organist and music guy here at Gloria Dei Lutheran Church in Olympia, Washington. Welcome to my devotions from the organ bench. Today is Saturday, September 26th, 2020. The hymn I would like to look at today is the communion hymn used in worship tomorrow, Now the Silence, number 460 in our red ELW hymnals. This hymn is a collaboration of two very important figures in 20th century Lutheran church music, Karl Schalk and Jaroslav Vaida. Vaida, the author of the text here, was born in Ohio, and that's spelled V-A-J-D-A, by the way. He was the son of a Lutheran pastor, and he lived from 1919 to 2008. Vaida's grandparents emigrated in the 1880s from Slovakia. He felt a connection with his past, learned Slovak, and became an expert in Slovakia's classic literature and hymnody. Through his life, he translated many Slovakian poems and wrote many of his own poems as well. He was also a Lutheran pastor and became the book developer and editor for Concordia Publishing House. His own poetry is sometimes a bit unusual. He tended to use unconventional meters and non-rhyming schemes. Our hymn text today is certainly an example of that. And note, there's only one verse of this, and here's what it reads. Now the silence, now the peace, now the empty hands uplifted, now the kneeling, now the plea, now the Father's arms in welcome. Now the hearing, now the power, now the vessel brimmed for pouring. Now the body, now the blood, now the joyful celebration. Now the wedding, now the songs, now the heart forgiven leaping. Now the Spirit's visitation, now the Son's epiphany, now the Father's blessing. Now. Vaida intended this to be an opening hymn at the beginning of service, simply because its theology points ahead to the whole service. Vaida stated about it, quote, "The reversal of the Trinitarian order in the benediction, therefore, was made not only to make the conclusion memorable, but to indicate the order in which the Trinity approaches us in worship. The Spirit brings us the gospel by which God's blessing is related to our lives." So this Trinitarian, backwards Trinitarian thing, it ends, the last line of this again is, now the Spirit's visitation, now the Son's epiphany, and now the Father's blessing. And normally when invoking the Trinity, we invoke the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Here we invoke the Spirit, the Son, then the Father. Vaida goes on to say that, quote, "The order in which the incarnation took place, the visitation of the Virgin Mary by the Holy Spirit, then the Son's epiphany as the incarnate Word, followed by the universal blessing bestowed upon all in whom this same process occurs." Vaida also explained that at the time of writing this, he was having his own doubts about ministry and specifically his own lack of joy at times. As he saw hymnal after hymnal printing this hymn, he commented later that he felt rather relieved that he was not the only person in this struggle. The composer here, Karl Schalk, is a native of Illinois and is still living. He is a church musician, composer, and author that, as Paul Westermeyer puts it, quote, "has studied and embodied the essence of the Lutheran heritage with graceful and persistent conviction." You can find a list of his musical compositions, books, and articles that was printed in a book back in 2005. And in 2005, it took 30 pages of that book to print. And he's done things in the last 15 years as well. This tune, which Schalk named Now, is the first of a number of collaborations between Vaida and Schalk. This, and perhaps God of the Sparrow, God of the Whale, are the two most recognized. Vaida only asked Schalk for one thing when working with this tune, that it end on a G. And that's simply because as this hymn was intended to begin worship, that way the pastor could go right into "The Lord be with you" during a worship service. This connection perhaps makes more sense to this seemingly odd ending of this. Now, Schalk, when asked about Vida's poetry, stated, quote, "Three aspects of Vida's writing deserve special comment: his ability to fashion a striking new image, or to reshape an older image, his affinity for less usual textual forms and meters, and his strong theological thrust." In this hymn, I think that thrust is definitely the word now. One of the Slovakian poems Vida translated contained the line, quote, "Wish me silence, wish me peace," end quote. Vida takes this and says, okay, we're going to find this attitude of worship now in this hymn. And sometimes I think, as Christians, that's just what we have to do. Not in an ill-behaved child, I want this now kind of way, but in a grown-up, maybe this shouldn't wait for some other time kind of way. The Spirit's entry is certainly in worship, even if worship is on your couch with the computer screen in front of you. I hope you continue to find moments of your own where you can stop and think, okay, now works. Thanks again for joining me this week.